First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. There is a live shot from our Shriners camera over downtown Portland, looking directly there at Mount Hood. And as you can see, still some snow up there despite all the heat that we've been having. And that is the source of one of the things that we're going to be talking about here today. So again, thank you for joining us. We live stream here every weekday starting around 1 p.m. Pacific, going throughout the afternoon, covering a wide range of topics. Over this last weekend, a gentleman was climbing Mount Hood, slipped and fell 700 feet. After that, was rescued, and from what we understand is recovering. But we're going to be talking about that fall, what went on there, what it takes to rescue somebody, and some climbing tips for anybody who does want to go out there and climb Mount Hood here over this summer season. But to do so, we're joined right now by Dave Sherman from Portland Mountain Rescue. And Dave, thank you very much for being here with us today to talk about this and the work that you do. But when I got to be honest, when I saw this title, 700 feet, it's hard to believe someone could even make it through that. Can you walk us through some of the details here for anybody who doesn't know of what this is that happened up there?
Sure, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. The climber was ascending and hadn't reached the summit yet, and he was at around 11,000 feet, and the mountain was very icy. It had frozen the night before, and so it's very steep, it's very icy, and to be in that environment, you really have to have a lot of skills and training to even be in the environment. He made a very small mistake, and he slipped, and he was not able to self-arrest, and he fell down about a 40-degree slope for, like you said, around 700 feet, and he came, and he ended up at an area called the Hot Rocks, which is at around 10,500, 10,400 or so, and sustained injuries bad enough to need a helicopter rescue. And we had to marshal many different resources and organizations to get him off the mountain. Wow,
I mean, that's crazy. 40-degree angle for 700 feet, banging around all over everything, I'm sure, as you're going down that. Amazing to even survive. Now, for you, for the Portland Mountain Rescue, how do you become aware of this incident, and how does the rescue organization become involved in helping to go save somebody like this?
Sure. So when he fell, he happened to be next to two Army combat medics that witnessed the fall, and they were at the scene immediately and able to help stabilize him. And then two of the Forest Service Rangers, Ryan and Joe, got there shortly thereafter to help also stabilize. At that point, they called 911. 911 mobilized the Hood River Sheriff's Office, and the Hood River Sheriff's Office mobilized the Cragrats, Portland Mountain Rescue, the AMR Reach and Treat team, and eventually the Army National Guard. And so the teams arrived at various times to the mountain after the sheriff called us out. And we formed various teams. There's a medical team. There's a team that if the helicopter can't get the climber off of the mountain, we have to lower that climber or ski that climber down. So we had plans for, first and foremost, the helicopter, because his injuries were really bad, and we thought we needed to get him off as soon as possible. But if the winds were too high or it was very warm, and so the helicopters, their operational ceiling sometimes is below where that is, we weren't sure if we were going to get the helicopter or not. So we had two other teams that were either going to ski the litter down or lower the litter down on a rope if the conditions for skiing it down weren't good enough. So there were multiple teams on the mountain between the Cragrats, AMR, PMR, Sheriff's Office is coordinating all of this. And luckily the helicopter was able to do a hot load where they just sort of balance on the hog's back with one wheel on the mountain, and their tail is off, and stabilized the patient, loaded him into the helicopter, and they were able to bring him to OHSU.
Wow, that's some incredible piloting skills right there alone, just for the helicopter
very
pilot.
Impressive. Yeah, those guys are very impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of coordination, even to get up there, and I want to get into that side of things, talking about this particular climb, is this something that, because it sounds like this climber is pretty experienced from what I understand, or has experience climbing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how experienced he was, but the mountain is very treacherous right now, and a very small mistake can have really high consequences. And so some of your hazards on the mountain are, especially right now, it's warmer on the mountain, so the sun hits the top of the mountain, it melts all the snow and ice up there, and it loosens up chunks of rock and chunks of ice, and everything from toaster-sized chunks of rock and ice to baseball-sized chunks of rock and ice are coming down the mountain as soon as the sun hits it. So that's the biggest hazard, period, at this time of year, that you're going to get possibly hit by a chunk of falling ice or rock. And the other hazard is the steep snow. When it is frozen, it is very tricky, and you have to have training and experience on how to be in that kind of a situation. If you don't have the experience to be there, you shouldn't be there. You can warm up on peaks like Mount Adams and Mount St. Helens and South Sister. By the time you get to Mount Hood, you should have quite a few miles under your belt and some training from organizations like the Mazamas that can teach you how to self-arrest and how to set up belays, and you'd be meeting other climbers at your ability level to learn together. So I'm not sure what his experience was, but it takes only a very small mistake to have really high consequences, and that's what happened. That it was super icy. He slipped. He couldn't self-arrest, and that was a 700-foot fall.
Yeah, and then you're on your way. I mean, at that point, I can only imagine, how slick that is too to try to stop on something like that. So
if you don't self-arrest within just a couple of seconds, and maybe less than a couple of seconds, if you don't self-arrest immediately, it's almost impossible to self-arrest. So you can't fall.
So once that starts, so within a first couple of seconds or less, that's the time you have to stop. Otherwise, you're on your way down to gravity.
And if you've practiced self-arrest in various positions, falling head first, feet first, back, or stomach, if you've practiced that a lot of times, you're a lot more likely to be successful in self-arresting. But if you haven't practiced self-arrest, you can be an experienced climber, but if you haven't been in this particular type of environment and you haven't practiced that multiple times, it is very consequential. And so you just want to have it dialed, and you want to be dialed.
So for people out there who are wanting to climb Mount Hood, and they're maybe looking at the weather and thinking, oh, it's nice out, it's down here, it's not going to be that challenging. What would you recommend to them to do to prepare for a climb like Mount Hood?
To prepare for a climb for Mount Hood, you want to have the skills first. And you really want to take a class on how to climb on steep snow and ice. The Mazamas, there's a lot of organizations that do it. The Mazamas are local, and they do it very well. So you want to have the training first. You need to be fit. You need to be very fit. You want to be able to, for Hood, you probably want to be able to run a half marathon. That's probably the equivalent. You need to have the right equipment, and the equipment varies. It's different equipment in January than it is in July. So the equipment's very important, and you need to check the weather. You need to check the avalanche forecast. There's a lot to know. And so if you want to climb Mount Hood, you don't want that to be your first Cascade volcano. You want to try Mount St. Helens. You want to try Adams. You want to try South Sister. Those are big climbs. They're committing climbs, but they don't have the consequences on their standard routes that Mount Hood has. So you really just don't want Mount Hood to be your first climb. It needs to be, you need to have some experience before you get on Mount Hood. There's no easy way to the summit at any time of year. There used to be able to, maybe 15 years ago, you could be an intermediate or beginner climber and climb that without high consequence, but the mountain changes. The snow angles change from year to year, and right now there's no easy way to the summit of Mount Hood. Every single way up is technical and dangerous.
I think that's interesting, that maybe somebody could be thinking about how, I had a friend who did it, 15 years ago, and it wasn't that bad. Now that it's changed, that's really important. Looking at it from the Portland Mountain Rescue standpoint, from what you all do, say this guy wasn't up there and didn't have two Army medical rangers or whatever they were, former medical officers there, and they were by themselves. Do you recommend somebody having a beacon on them? Do you recommend somebody having a satellite phone? Is there any kind of recommendations along those lines?
The first recommendation is to have the experience and the training to be there. in the first place. That is absolutely the first recommendation. During the wintertime, or if you're going to be climbing late in the day when it's warm, you need an avalanche. You need avalanche equipment. You need a shovel, a probe, and an avalanche beacon. And you need a friend that also has a shovel, probe, and avalanche beacon, because the beacon does you no good if you're alone. You need to have all the equipment. You need to have a ton of stuff, but not all at once. So like January is going to be a lot different than July. So just understanding what you need to do and finding mentors or a class to teach you how to climb steep ice and steep snow. That's really the best thing you can do, is take a class, go to the Mazamas, take their basic mountaineering school, and learn how to be out there from seasoned people who know what they're doing and like to teach that.
So it really does seem, I mean, basically on everything that you're saying, and really important is get the training beforehand. Know what you're doing beforehand before you go up there and need that.
Absolutely.
Rest.
Absolutely. If people watching could take anything away, I would love them to take that away, is get the training and be very fit, and then get the equipment. And this is a slow progression, and you just don't want to start with Mount Hood. It's just too dangerous.
For going to the rescue side of things, you mentioned, I think it was the Mount Hood sheriffs or somebody over there called out, correct me on whoever that was, but called out to all of those different organizations to come together. So how does that organization work between you and AMR and the National Guard and everybody that's involved in that?
Yeah, great question. So in this case, it was the Hood River County Sheriff that activated this. We also work under the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and then they work very similarly, where they have different organizations under them depending on the type of incident they have. Like if a mushroom picture gets lost, that's a certain type of organization that's going to go out, including PMR. In this case, they activated the Crag Rats and PMR, who we are on the south side of the mountain. The Crag Rats and the PMR, we train together, we work together a lot, we know each other, and we know what their skills are, they know what our skills are, and we work really well together. And as time has gone on, we really can plug and play really nicely. The AMR Reach and Treat team it's either one or two people, depending on the situation. In this case, it was one, that have a really high medical ability. So I forget the actual qualification, but they're basically almost like an ER, an emergency room training type of person. They're not a doctor, but they might as well be. They handle any kind of trauma, and they're more highly trained usually than almost anybody else that's going to be at the scene. And they run the medical. So you've got the technical side is the Crag Rats and Portland Mountain Rescue are going to set up the systems. Where this gentleman fell, he fell into an area where we might have had to raise him and then lower him. And there's some techniques of doing that. There are technical systems you have to set up to make that so it will work. So you've got the medical team and led by the AMR Reach and Treat gentleman, and you have the technical side. And luckily, the technical side we really didn't need in this case, because the Army helicopter was able to land and get him out of there quickly and not require the extra hour or however long it would have been to get him down if we'd had to lower him or ski him down.
Wow. I mean, it's just incredible what you're all able to do. And for Portland Mountain Rescue, can you just give everybody an idea in case they don't know how your organization works and how it's structured?
Sure. We are all volunteer. There are no paid professionals on Portland Mountain Rescue, so we depend on donations from the public. And at any given time, there's probably 80 people in our unit that, when a call goes out, will get that call and are qualified enough to respond. And if we get 10 or 12 people, we can run a mission very effectively, and we almost always will get at least that many. So we train together all year. We train on different types of situations. We train on snow. We train on high angle rock. We train on lost people and learn how to track. So we do all this training so that when the real thing happens, we've done it before, we've practiced it, we have a lot of reps, and we're able to be efficient. And our members know each other, our leaders know our members, so we know who we want for different types of things. And it all works really, really well. But it's dependent on the donations from the public. We're a nonprofit, and nobody is paid, and when this call went out, we were all in Portland. Everyone's in the Portland metro area, so it took us, an hour and a half to stop what we were doing, get our stuff together, get ourselves fed and fueled, and get to the mountain.
Man, I mean, just amazing. Well, thank you for doing what you do. And
thanks so much for your time. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and for everybody out there who is interested in donating, just to reiterate to them, where can they go to support?
Our website is www.pmru.org. So it's PMRU, which is, I think somebody had already purchased PMR. So we got PMRU.org.
PMRU.org, so everybody can go there and take a look. And Dave, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really, really appreciate you being here on Fox 12 Now and all your work.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I really enjoyed it, and best of have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. You too. And for everybody watching again, we're live here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. This is Fox 12 Now. We're here every weekday between 1 and 4 p.m. That's when we go live. We also, if there's ever breaking news, this is the place to go. So we'll have that for you anytime outside of our other newscasts. This is the place you'll get a notification. We're at kptv.com under the Fox 12 Now tab on the Fox 12 Oregon app. So 2 great ways to watch it. And of course on social media as well. So wherever you find us, send us an email if you have a topic that you would like to see covered on here, fox12now@kptv.com. We'll see what we can do. Whether it's a deeper dive on a story you saw on one of our other news shows, or something you want to get information about, or even an event that's happening. It's a wide range of subjects on here. But thank you to Portland Mountain Rescue and Dave for joining us for this one. We'll sign off for now. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.